Hi, you guys. Welcome back. This is Richard Sachs on Lost Arts Radio. Doug Diamond is here, and our friend Sheriff Richard Mack is also here. And we invited him specifically because of what's happening in the world right now. There's a lot of fast developments occurring, as you've probably noticed wherever you're living in the world. And it's not just America. There's similar things going on in many other parts of the world right now. It's kind of an amazing, accelerated global attack on humanity and freedom. So we're sitting in America at this point, but you'll be able to relate to it wherever you are, I'm sure, and we're in touch with people all over the place. So this week, I'm in Arizona, and so is Sheriff Mack, and we noticed that the governor, Ducey, decided to order cities to go ahead and make it illegal if they want to be without a mask in public at any time. And you might have noticed there's a difference between the ruler just giving orders and something about a constitutional republic that we've talked about a lot in the past. And it's really a major difference, because the reason that America was started was to get away from the system where the ruler just makes an order and he says, oh, I'll kill these people because they don't agree with what I've said, and give these people extra money out of the taxes because I like them, or something like that. It's a very different system, and we're rapidly sliding into that, according to some of the governors and mayors and city council members and things like that. They're saying, wow, if we're in power, the other system's really not too bad. We get to do whatever we want. So we want to look at that and see what the responses might be. And while all this is going on, remembering the history of this engineered virus, which is real according to the best reports we've got, and it was engineered in a lab, not in China, but in North Carolina. Nobody's talking about that, including Congress or the president. They're kind of mentioning China. The media is still fighting that, but they're not mentioning the fact that it's a U.S. project. Fauci, who's still working under the president and hasn't even been arrested yet or charged with anything, which is, I think, a big oversight of the president at this point. And then it was done most of the way in this country and then sent over to Wuhan for the BSL lab over there to finish up and then release. And the rest is what's happened to humanity. And it was announced beforehand. There's almost no chance it was released unintentionally. But in any case, we're in the aftermath right now, and it's fitting together perfectly, as if they assume there's nothing we can do. And that's going to be the question we talk about today. So welcome, Sheriff Mack. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know you just got out of a long car trip, and it's nice you could be here. I think this is really important. So welcome.
Well, thanks. It's always good to be with you, Richard. And this is such a crucial time for our country that I appreciate being able to discuss these issues with you, and maybe let people know that it used to be that the communistic takeover of America was very Fabianistic, very piecemeal, a little bit of the tell at a time. The last 3 or 4 months, you'd have to say, it has been accelerated exponentially.
Yeah, it surprised me for sure, and I'm pretty up on this kind of stuff. And I just, was really not expecting a sudden medical takeover. I mean, it's not really a takeover by medicine per se, because they're following orders from above them, but they turned out to be the perfect vehicle, because everybody is trained to be terrified of germs, number one. And you have to do whatever you can to avoid the evil germs getting you at any moment. So it's just perfect. That system is above governments in the people's minds. It's international. It's unquestionable. And anybody that disagrees with it needs to be silenced. So they just jumped on that.
I think the number one thing I'm astonished by, though, is the occupation of Seattle.
Oh, yeah, right.
We have a mayor there who is definitely liberal. The whole state is mostly, but boy, Seattle even worse. It's a very blue state. So how is it that she's okay with the occupation of downtown Seattle? And even this morning, there were shots fired, and as close as we can confirm, because the police were not allowed. The police tried to go in there to investigate, and they were pelted with bottles and other things. And she's still holding to that this is a block party, and that she's even saying this will be a summer of love for downtown Seattle, because these people are going to probably be there that long.
Yeah, just like in the Haight-Ashbury in the 60s.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And so her hide and seek approach to this, and her disclaimer that this is a block party, gets more and more ridiculous every day. And I'm astonished that she was actually, they tried to reach her regarding the murder that happened in that occupied area, and she had no comment.
Yeah, not
because
very
it just
interesting
doesn't
subject.
go to her liberal block party bull-loney.
So one of the things that brings up as an immediate question is this thing about somebody being liberal. Liberal comes from the same root as liberty, and it should be about freedom and respecting other people's freedom. And, you know, liberal sounds great. Why do liberals have to be totally insane? I mean, this is actually, if it was just random insanity, it would be much better, because those people don't know what they're doing. They're just crazy. This is calculated, and it's more what you would identify with Marx and Engels' book on how to be a communist. And people don't remember, most of them, or never knew that one of the central tenets of communism is steal all the money from the evil rich people and destroy their property and distribute it fairly, you know, social justice, to all the people who've been oppressed, which is everybody else.
Yeah,
So,
pretty scary. And you mentioned a title of a book. You didn't mean to, but you did. And I don't agree with Ann Coulter very often, but I sure agree with her title of the book that's called Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. And it is absolutely so true, because I've seen that there's just no common sense, there's no historical sense to just about anything and everything they say. And no one within the leftist, communist, socialist agenda in America, the democratic socialists and democratic communists, they never seem to really care if their own group is dishonest or caught being dishonest. They do not care.
isn't that amazing conditioning that people are following that?
Yeah.
And they don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, millions and millions of them.
It's a promotion of their agenda, and they all seem to have this little network that makes sure they all understand that. We promote the agenda above anything and everything else, which falls in line with the communist planks.
Right. It's not really liberal, is it? I mean, if you look
No.
at Thomas Jefferson as a typical liberal in the real sense, this is a little bit different. And, you know, liberal meaning freedom and respect for other people. And that means their property. You don't go destroy their business or burn it down or break their windows. And, you know, you learn about that.
If there was any mutual respect within the liberal agenda, then they would know that forcing me to wear a mask is against the law. It's inappropriate. It's
Right.
flat out wrong and immoral. And that they're going to even fine me $250. Well, I'm guaranteeing you, if I get one of those fines, I'm going to contest it and I'm going to go to court. It sounds almost like that you just have to go pay the fine. Well, I will demand my due process, and I will call the mayor as a witness.
Are you saying, is this the deal in Phoenix where you have to pay $250?
Well, it sounded like that, but I haven't read the actual statute or ordinance, because really the city council doesn't get to make a lot of laws. Even the traffic laws, they don't make traffic laws. The state does.
Right.
I guess they can make a few parking regulations, but even those are all unconstitutional. That's one of my big fights I had before, because it cites the vehicle. It doesn't cite the person.
Yeah.
So the owner of the vehicle is responsible for anything that their children or their friends or their spouse.
Inanimate children in this case.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I would think they would even charge me if somebody stole my car and illegally parked it downtown Phoenix. It would be the same.
I had that happen, actually. I had a car stolen and I got a bill for the traffic violations that the person had because it would be racist to make the person who stole it pay for it anyway.
Yeah, you see, there's no common sense to it. It's just we're trying to collect money here and don't let the truth and the rule of law get in the way. And as a matter of fact, I've got to quote you something. Something happened this week that was kind of amazing. I don't think you and I have talked about this yet.
Okay.
And so I've got to read this to you. Tell me where this came from. It is incumbent on the courts to ensure decisions are made according to the rule of law, not hysteria. One hopes that this great principle, essential to any free society, including ours, will not itself become yet another casualty of COVID-19, end quote. Have you heard of that?
Well, if you hadn't mentioned COVID-19, I would have guessed Thomas Paine or somebody like that, but it has to be somebody recent if they mentioned that.
It is recent.
I don't know who it is.
It's the Michigan Supreme Court regarding Carl Mankey, who was that 77-year-old barber who just wanted to stay in business.
Right.
And he was shut down. I think he was arrested, just like Shelley Luther in Dallas. And I've talked to her. She and I have talked on the phone, and I told her I'm going to come out to Dallas just to have her salon do my hair. I found out she doesn't do hair. She owns a salon that does hair, but she doesn't do hair. She's actually a makeup artist, a specialist in makeup. So I told her I probably wouldn't need that, but I would love to go to her business and support her business and give a big tip to whichever one cuts my hair.
Yeah.
But this whole thing with Carl Mankey is so heroic and so amazing because the Democrats and the Republicans on the Michigan Supreme Court both agreed unanimously that we're supposed to have the rule of law, not hysteria.
Well, that could be a problem for the governor of Michigan, I would think.
Well, it is. It was against her. That's who it was against. And so to have that kind of a ruling, that based on principle, that much is astonishing. I thought she would win because it's Michigan and.
Well, I mean, she might have to declare the Supreme Court non-essential after that.
That's good, Richard. Yeah, I bet she feels that way and a lot more.
Yeah.
What an amazing principle that the rule of law will not become yet another casualty of COVID-19. I love that.
Yeah, incredible. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in response to that ruling. Yeah,
it would. And I know he's back to work, but if I know Governor Whitmer, like I know the tyrant that she is, she's not going to take that sitting down. I bet her wheels are turning big time as to how to still put that barber in his place.
Yeah, appeal the decision or something. Can you appeal a Supreme Court decision?
The peasants who don't bow down and kiss the ring of the dictator get in trouble.
Yeah, that's what Hal Turner was talking about in New Jersey, because he was saying that governor there, I forget, Murphy maybe his name is, I'm not positive, and he had decreed that people have to stay home and can't go to work because it's too dangerous, and he just made the order. And cities and counties and states are making all kinds of orders like that, figuring nobody else wants.
Never again. Of course, I really didn't shut down. I think I told you that. I never really shut down. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have school, but I taught school the whole time from home. And I went to a store literally 2 or 3 times a day. And I'd go to Walmart, then I'd go to a grocery store, I'd go to Fry's supermarket, then I'd go over to Safeway, And yeah, I just go pick up a few things just to get out of the house. I'd go down to the school and shoot a few baskets, whatever I had to do. But I am one person who can't sit still, and I sure can't sit still for hours and days in one location. No way.
Right. Well, if they implement these fines that you're mentioning, the $250, which no doubt will be per violation, they wouldn't want to leave it at just one when they could do 100 times that much. They're going to need a lot more enforcers, for one thing, similar to the contact tracing army.
Well,
that they're hiring.
I have something on that too, because the Yuma County Sheriff said he was using this for political reasons. We don't have enough manpower to enforce a mask law. And instead of saying, like, get this, Sheriff Scott Jones of Sacramento told the dictator in California, Newsom, that he's not going to enforce the mask law because it's inappropriate. Now, that's what I want to hear from the sheriffs, like the sheriff in Yuma, who says, no, we just don't have the manpower. And I've told the board of supervisors over and over that we need more manpower.
Well, they'll say, no problem. Here's 1,000 contact tracers to catch everybody for you.
Can anybody make a decision just based on principle? And I don't remember the sheriff's name in Yuma, but I really wish that he would just look at his principle book called the Constitution and just come up with the principle and say, oh, yeah, that's right. I swore an oath to protect liberty, and that's what we will do in this county. The governor or the mayor or the rules notwithstanding.
Right, right.
Will be the rule today.
And I think a really good thing to do would be for the liberals to either study what liberals are supposed to do and act like that, or rename the party as the Communist Fascist Party or something like that.
Well, yeah, that would be more pragmatic.
Yeah, just to be honest. But there are governors and other people on the Republican Party who are being terrible too, and one of them just issued the order that you're talking about in Arizona. That's not a Democrat.
Wasn't that a wonderful way to do it? I'm now allowing the cities and the counties to make their own rules about masks.
Right, it's not my fault.
Yeah, like none of the Democrats are going to do that. Boy, that's all that Kate Gallego needed. Boy, bam, the city council in Phoenix, are you kidding? They heard that, and what are they going to do? Blame Ducey, and Ducey will blame them. And Ducey put me in a hard spot because I'm not good. I don't want to vote for that man ever again. But he's running against some liberal communist Democrat.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Exactly. That's a hard decision. You can't just have it.
Maybe I'll just vote for the communist dictator because the Republicans fight a lot more for freedom when there's a Democrat in office. So maybe I'll just go.
Yeah, true. It depends. We have to see what they're going to do with these new domestic armies like Obama called for, which looks like it's going to be the contact tracers.
Obama really got away with one there, but the thing of it is he got away with everything.
Right.
And all these peace-loving hippies and socialists and utopian people that let him get away with an armed citizen army.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, but it's for peace.
Yeah. No. And then all those people that wanted to do away with guns and get rid of the Second Amendment, and he bought up over $1 billion worth of ammunition and millions and millions of dollars worth of guns, and they were assault rifles.
Right.
And
you need those in order to enforce that everybody else is peaceful and disarmed.
Yeah, and nobody knows where those guns went.
I know.
But I will tell you, you said something else I wanted to say earlier too. I've never trusted, I can't remember why I wanted to say that to you, but something you said earlier. I've never trusted the FDA. And so now we have this real big push at the federal level to make sure that we're all bowing down to, it was the medical dictatorship that you didn't say.
Okay.
The what? what did you say? Medical tyranny or medical? Anyway,
Yeah, I
something
forget
like
the exact phrase, but
yeah.
yeah, they're
But it was
above
really
government.
good.
Everybody
Yeah,
accepts that they're the ultimate bosses.
yeah, exactly. And the FDA's been doing this crap for a long time, and they've gotten away with it.
Hmm.
And all the bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. continuously put innocent people in prison because they don't go along with some of these edicts from these bureaucrats.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
boy,
The
have the
EPA is
Democrats
just as bad, and many of
to
them.
get too much power or what?
Right, right. Yeah, well, there's two issues there about using the medical situation to justify tyranny. One is that even if a lot of conservatives that call themselves conservatives get this wrong too, they say the death rate's not really as high as they say, therefore it doesn't justify taking away all your freedoms. That's not how it works. The death rate could be 99%. The government could recommend that you stay in your house, but it couldn't order you in a constitutional republic, even if everybody was going to die. And that was the spirit of the original founding of the United States that made it different, at least in theory, was never lived up to totally. But in theory, the idea was you give up your life before your freedom. So you can't say that, well, the disease is bad enough, so you can have all your rights back later. The death rate's irrelevant, other than strategic.
Yeah, where on earth that came from? Oh, you know, we've already talked about this on your show, but I'm so astonished that the brainwashing has been so effective on so many different people in Arizona and across the country that as long as there's an emergency, it's okay to quarantine freedom, and it's okay to suspend liberty. And yeah, these public officials are just doing what they have to do. They don't want to do this, but
No,
they just have to do this to protect us.
they're only there to help you, giving up their own interests completely. And, a lot of researchers have pointed out that at the federal level, there's been a continuous state of emergency reenacted every time it's about to run out for many years, and it's still in force. This is just a state of emergency within the state of emergency. So, and they're not even declaring a state of emergency, they're declaring it's an emergency, whatever that means, and therefore this is what you have to do. And I think it's fantastic to detach from the World Homicide Organization, but what about the Centers for Disease Creation? We haven't detached from that at all.
Does you kind of slid over that real quickly. I don't know if your audience knows that you just took a real big slam at WHO, the World Homicide Organization.
Yeah, well, there are people that disagree with me and say it's the World Holocaust Organization, but I think that homicide is probably closer.
Yeah, well, I was wondering, though, if I do go downtown Phoenix and the Phoenix SWAT team comes to arrest me or cite me, and what if I resist and then they shoot me? Will there be a dark white organization marching for my behalf, or will Black Lives Matter kind of like include me because I was standing for liberty?
I think they'll march for you because you were hiding the fact that you're actually black.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do claim to be I should say dark white, because that's impossible. I am a very dark tan, I guess, maybe even a light brown.
Yeah.
And so I should be able to join the brown organization because I'm darker than a lot of my students who are Hispanic and Mexican, and
yeah.
So I don't get all that division stuff and labeling stuff because
it's so irrelevant. I mean, race is almost it's a mildly interesting term about where your ancestors may have come from, but if you go back far enough, most likely everybody came from Southern Africa in the beginning, and then they migrated in different tribes to places where they had more or less sunlight. And if they were migrating to the extreme latitudes, the body's really smart. It's conscious and intelligent, and it says all this color, this melanin, is filtering out the little bit of sun that we've got up here. We got to get rid of it, which it did. and that became people with light skin.
Well, the stand at the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, has always been the same. We are against all injustice. We are against injustice to blacks, to Hispanics, to Asians, to whites. Doesn't matter what religion. I'm not going to name all religions. It doesn't matter what religion you are. You could be Muslim, you could be Christian, you could be atheist. We don't care what religion you are. We don't care how you believe about God. We stand against all injustice. And about 9 or 10 years ago, maybe it wasn't quite that long, 8 or 9 years ago perhaps, Jose Garena in Tucson was shot and killed by the Pima County SWAT team inside his home. And BLM wasn't there. In fact, I don't even think La Raza or any other Hispanic organization was there. We had a big parade for him. Oath Keepers was there. CSPOA was there. Stuart Rhodes spoke at the memorial service. I was asked by Garena's widow to speak at a memorial service for them.
Yeah.
And it got on the news a little bit here in the Tucson area and maybe in the state a little bit. And then the news media created a battle between Sheriff Dupnick, the Democrat sheriff in Pima County, and me, and we used to be sheriffs together. And because they would ask me if Sheriff Dupnick should be apologizing and should be taking further steps to make sure this sort of thing never happened again. And and I told the truth. And he was so arrogant about this. He said, "Let this be a lesson to everybody. If the police show up at your place, don't be handling or holding a gun." Well, in my own home,
right,
I can hold a gun anytime I want.
So he's basically saying there's no Second Amendment inside your house.
Yeah, especially when cops are running at your home with the sirens blaring.
Was that police or sheriff's deputies who did that?
Wait, say that again?
Was that police or sheriff's deputies that did that?
It was both, because it was a SWAT team task force from several different agencies. And so my bottom line on that was, okay, the sheriff, okay, he can keep mouthing off and he can keep saying what he wants, but I guarantee you that it's going to cost his insurance company that they use for the Pima County, it will cost him about $4,000 to $5,000. Well, I was off. It was $3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they did nothing wrong, but they paid almost $4 million for it.
Yeah.
And I even told Vanessa Garena, and she didn't speak very good English, and I spoke to her in Spanish.
Yeah.
I told her that if they needed any help in court, I would be honored to testify against these people who killed her husband. Well, it was totally unnecessary, and I bring this horrible incident up, quite frankly, because it got very little attention nationally. In fact, none.
Yeah.
And yet this was a horrible abuse, equal or worse to some of these that are being touted today. And
what was their excuse for showing up and doing the SWAT team raid? What was it about?
Oh, they had a search warrant that he was a drug dealer. That there were drugs in the house. They found no drugs. They didn't find one single thing illegal in that home. Nothing.
It's the great benefit of the war on drugs.
Right? Justify being there.
Yeah.
And so he had just gotten home from working. I think he worked at a local mine, like in Marana, and he just got home. And they could have easily gone to his place of employment and said, "Come with us." Right. They could have easily performed a traffic stop and surrounded him in a non-residential area while he was driving home, and take him down that way.
Yeah.
But to wait until he gets home and he's asleep, and then they come and cause all this ruckus, and the wife wasn't sure who was outside. Right. She said, "There's a bunch of men with dark uniforms on." She said, "There's a bunch of men outside with guns." That's all she told her husband. And he said, go get in the closet. He grabbed his gun, and when he was heading for the front door, they kicked it in, and they immediately started shooting. And to just show you the kind of stupidity that we have in some of our police agencies, while about 4 SWAT team members are emptying their clips into the house, hitting walls, going through the house and hitting a neighbor's house, shooting about 75 rounds. One cop comes up and reaches over them with his .45 semi-automatic and just starts firing indiscriminately into the home. And
wow.
And that's part of the big reason why she got nearly $4 million. But be that as it may, I'm really astonished that didn't get much attention. But I want to say this and reiterate again. We have always been marching and fighting against injustice in this country. And we support the peaceful protesters that want peaceful change in this country.
Sure, I agree.
And we absolutely abhor what happened to George Floyd. And it was absolutely horrible what happened to him, and it should never have happened.
Right. But you brought up a really important point, that it has nothing to do with race.
It doesn't.
That's something that the media is really pushing, trying to get everybody to hate each other based on that. And it's irrelevant. Race is irrelevant. If somebody's a human being, they should be supported by all of the rest of us, you know, with their basic rights and basic respect and things like that. It has nothing to do with race.
I had a black guy open the door for me at a local store recently, and I went like that. I go, wow, thanks. I said, so we're not enemies? He goes, no, I don't believe in any of that crap. And I said, thank you, I don't either. I don't want to be anybody. That's
normal. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so but somebody really doesn't want us to think that.
No, civil war is an excuse for the supranational agencies like the UN have to come in a civil war and make peace and protect everybody. And that's the end of the country.
In fact, I think one of the biggest charlatans in the country is Al Sharpton. Does he ever try to create peace on anything? Another one right next to him would be Barack Obama. Do any of these so-called black leaders ever say Martin Luther King didn't want this? Martin Luther King believed in love, not hate. In fact, Martin King said hate will not drive out hate, and that only love can get rid of that. When are we going to? In fact, I see white people protesting with black people all the time.
Yeah,
why aren't they beating up those white people and telling them to get out of the way?
Well, there's a lot of brilliant peace-oriented black leaders and Hispanic leaders and Asian leaders and Native American leaders that are amazing and not they're not divisive at all. But the thing is, nobody ever hears about them on a big scale because they're not useful to the mainstream narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the agenda.
Right. So somehow they have to be brought back into public view, I think. There's a lot of great people in those categories, and it just proves that the race is irrelevant. It's interesting, you know, it says about your background and all that, but it has nothing to do with your humanity.
No, and I'm telling you right now, when I say we have fought and stood against all injustice, we have, how many of these people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Barack Obama, Maxine Waters, and many others, and including Republican and Democrats and all the whites, blacks, Hispanics, anybody in the United States Congress, how many of them have been promoting and supporting the injustices caused by the IRS, or as I mentioned earlier, the FDA? Mm-hmm. Huge injustices, putting innocent people in prison. The IRS routinely and very arrogantly kick people out of their homes because they owe a tax debt, and literally give them no due process and kick them to the streets. Oh, who's going to take care of them now? They don't care. Oh, go get on the welfare rolls. And I'm telling you, this is literally kicking people to the streets where they have to call a neighbor and ask if they can come and stay there a few days.
Well, I know this is what got Joe Bannister motivated, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And what a hero Joe Bannister has been. Yeah. And so we have been fighting against all injustices. Why is it that we give these people in Congress a free ride on all the injustices happening within the IRS, FDA, EPA, and many, many others?
Well, it brings up the question, too, how many of these insane mayors and city council members and county supervisors and governors and everybody like that, how many of them actually did get elected, and how many are just announced that they were elected and no one can check because there were machines involved? So we don't really know whether most of them even got elected. But it's a consciousness test right now for the country, because for every individual who gets to watch this, are you going to fall for labeling somebody by their race or religion or something like that, and having an opinion about them or hating them because of that? Or are you going to be a grown-up and see that that's irrelevant and look at them in the eyes as an individual? And it's a big test. And, you know, we need to start passing the test, I think, or the country's gone.
And now they're going after the statues of
George
Washington and Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh. There's a book out there, Vindicating the Founding Fathers, and it talks about race, slavery, land ownership, I don't know. Anyway, I've got to get that book because I want to use that in not only my CSPOA presentations, but use it at school if I continue on teaching there.
Right. It's like they did so many great things just with the idea that of a country that's based on individual freedom, not the collective good.
Yeah.
And they used to be wise enough to actually know what that meant and how important it was. And thanks to modern education, kids are raised to think that's all crazy, and also to pick out, well, they had this imperfection or that one, you know, they were still human beings in the process of learning, so they're no good. And instead, a sane response would be, wow, they did some really great stuff. Let's do better than they did,
right.
You know, and build on it.
And I do have to tell you, your producer, Doug Diamond, is one of our newest members of the CSPOA.
I know, it's exciting.
Everybody will follow his example and do the same. And
exactly.
Doug,
so we're going to come back to joining CSPOA because I think that's a really critical element in this whole thing, and we need millions of new members. But I want to ask you first, since this new stuff is happening, justified or not, that governors and county supervisors and city councils and legislatures, and maybe if they're going to make some laws, are saying, okay, now your rights are suspended for your own good because the collective, you know, whole is supposedly threatened, which isn't even true, but even if it were, it wouldn't matter. What, you know, people are just wanting to know, well, what are you supposed to do when that happens?
Yeah. Let your conscience be your guide. You know, I'm very much against violence.
Right.
And a lot of peace officers have told me, who I know, that what was the guy's name in Atlanta that was shot and killed? Richard.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The name slipped my mind.
I should forget his name, but that was a justified shooting because he had wrestled away the taser and was turning to use it on the officer. Well, everyone knows, and those officers have been trained, that this is non-lethal force, or it's very unlikely to cause serious permanent harm physically to any human being.
The taser.
The likelihood of being killed by one of those is off the charts, not going to happen.
Right.
Is it possible? Yeah, I guess you could get tased and then fall down and hit your head or something.
Yeah, or have a heart attack from stress or something.
Or have a heart attack from it, which has happened before, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very rare. And so the likelihood of somebody fearing death or serious physical harm from that, I think they're going to have a hard time from the defense table making that point from the people who are actually trained in this. Because all they're going to have to do is bring up the training modules and they'll be able to prove it. So I didn't agree with him being shot. And the whole thing that we teach at the CSPOA is what happens to any situation if you, the officer, take a step back, maybe even 2 steps, and look at the whole thing and ask yourself, what is the worst that's going to happen if this guy keeps running away with my taser? Right. You have his car, you know where he lives, you can follow him right then from a distance, and pretty soon you're going to catch him.
Yeah.
You're going to catch him. So I really don't believe there was any reason that he needed to die that night. He was being stupid because he was talking really well to the officers at first, and as soon as they tried to handcuff him, he got stupid. And I really wish that he hadn't. If he had just cooperated, he would have been home the next day, and it was totally unnecessary that he died. But I believe the officers are going to be in trouble and that they're going to have a hard time in court on this one.
Right, I agree.
But no, we all need to make sure that we don't do something stupid in those types of situations. For instance, I was talking tongue-in-cheek about getting arrested and maybe shot because I'm not going to accept the ticket or whatever they're going to do to me if I don't wear a mask downtown Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, if they want to take me in, that's fine. If they want to give me that citation, that's fine. I'll take it. I'll sign it.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm going to fight it after that. And that is a key to all of this. Live to fight another day. None of this is the hill to die on. Now, my personal individual liberty are worth fighting for, sometimes even dying for. But you don't have to embellish any of that as far as the dying for part. Just be smart. Be smart about it. Harmless as doves and wise as serpents. And that's our motto. And, you know, call me the next day. We'll get you some help to fight it.
Right.
But the main thing is have a constitutional sheriff. And this would be really great if we had a constitutional sheriff in Maricopa County who would tell the mayor, I'm not going to allow that to be enforced in this county. And she'll say, this is the incorporated area of Phoenix, and we'll do what we want here. And then that good constitutional sheriff will say, the last time I looked, Phoenix is in Maricopa County.
Right.
And then he will stand against her. And that's what standing for liberty is. It means you even stand against other government for the people.
Okay, so for sheriffs that don't understand why, if both of them have jurisdiction, in other words, the mayor, they're both in the county that you mentioned, and the sheriff, how do you determine which one is over the other one?
Well, we have a gentleman's agreement that the police departments within the county will handle all the calls within the incorporated areas of that city. Right. So Mesa, Phoenix, Gilbert, Chandler, Surprise, Glendale, Scottsdale, they all have their own police departments. So the gentleman's agreement is that they will handle it. However, what I wanted to make sure is that every police chief understands that if the sheriff sees you abusing the citizens and abusing the rights of the people, that I will step in and I will interpose on behalf of the people. So that conversation, though, needs to happen every month when they meet together and discuss how they're going to be on the same page with enforcing laws and keeping the peace in the entire jurisdiction of Maricopa County. And it doesn't matter what county. It could be Graham County, where I was sheriff. It could be small counties, could be big counties. Doesn't matter. You need to be on the same page, and you need to have this ironed out before the emergency happens.
Okay, so let's say 1 million people join CSPOA, and you've got some funds to operate with. What do you do with that?
Well, we're going to train every sheriff to do what I just said.
Okay.
And we also want to have chiefs of police at these trainings. But I want to be, and I just had a call from somebody else today, and even another sheriff. When can we get your training? I want to do this every week. But one of the necessities of that is that somehow I raise enough money so I can stop teaching school.
Exactly.
Right
so
now I can afford to do that.
So everybody who sees this and all the friends they share it with and all those people, every one of us need to join CSPOA, and that's really simple to do.
$50 membership, and if we had 100,000 people join,
yeah,
I'd be able to do this full time. Now I'm not the only one that can do this. That's another part of our plan, is that we identify, especially former sheriffs,
right,
who could learn to do this and come to a 1 week long training seminar with yours truly and some of our other constitutional attorneys and scholars that help us with this training.
Yeah.
One of those is Chris Ann Hall. Another one would be Michael Peruka. But that we provide this training where they can go out and do these seminars just like I do. We want to have about 10 to 50 such sheriffs and such trainers all across the country.
Yeah, I think that needs to happen as soon as possible.
Really quick.
You know, we have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to ask you, we've had a lot of people giving opinions in the last day or so about whether executive orders are legal at any of the levels they're happening on for what they're being used for. And the kind of most popular opinion from people that had a legal background that came up is that executive orders are meant to be within the department of the person who's heading it up. For example, really the president's executive orders, he can order the Justice Department or all federal employees what to do, as long as it's not overriding the Constitution. And a mayor can issue an executive order for city employees and contractors, but not for citizens.
Nope.
Does that sound correct to you?
That is absolutely correct. Yes, executive orders do not apply to the masses or to the people. Executive orders would be illegal on their face if they were to go any further than that, because only the legislatures can make law. The top executive cannot make law.
And there's this belief now, because it's being done, that, well, one way to do it is the law, the other is just to order the people what to do. And what you just explained is based on the understanding that the only thing that can control what you can or can't do is an actual law.
Well,
it's not an order.
That is, what if the legislature actually passes one of those to be law?
Well, that's the question then.
Then constitutional chiefs of police and patrol officers and deputies and peace officers and sheriffs would have to oppose it, like many are doing right now. They would have to say, like Governor Newsom, I'm not going to enforce that here. It's inappropriate. It's unconstitutional.
Right. Well, that's what happened in the.
And those sheriffs and a patrol officer by the name of Greg Anderson, they're heroes, and they're setting the good example.
Yeah, and what the authorities right now, in general, are trying to say is that the definition of a hero is somebody who obeys without complaining, no matter what they're ordered to do. And you've got kind of a different definition of hero. And what happened in New Jersey that we were talking about is a gym opened, and the governor said you can't just open if you have a gym. What are you trying to do? And they did it anyway because they said that you can't stop it legally. And the police came down there and they said, you're in violation of the executive order. Have a nice day and be safe. And the governor didn't like that very much. So they sent other authorities down there to fine everybody and close the gym and stuff like that. That was what was going on.
And the reason I open up my gym to the public is because it's my pursuit of happiness.
Right.
It's my liberty, and it's my livelihood.
Yes. And it's been shown over and over and over that this virus situation is not only not nearly as dangerous as it was presented as being, but it's easily cured. And everybody who demonstrates that, the doctors who demonstrate that, get attacked and banned off of all media.
Yeah.
Which is a clue of what's going on, or it certainly should be.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the bottom line is join CSPOA, get a network created with a lot of resources that can support these people who are trying to do the right thing.
And let me add to that. If any of you, Doug, anybody knows somebody with a lot of money or with just substantial money.
Yeah.
We're now a tax exempt organization. I compromised to do that.
Yeah.
But we do want people to feel good about contributing to us, and that does give you a tax break.
Yeah.
Tax breaks. There should not be an IRS in America, but the point is this: if you have somebody that can donate more, we need to have this happen right away, and really, it's essential to liberty that this happen.
Yeah.
And does anybody believe that this is going to happen without some financial support?
Right. I think, well, it's not just the recent authorities that have been trying to oppress everybody. And I don't mean a race, I mean everybody. It's been happening for thousands of years, and people have been trained over generations by the early religious authorities, actually in partnership with governments, that money is evil unless you give it to them. And and then they'll save you with it, right? But what I'm saying is money, this is part of the waking up process. Money is not evil. It just depends what you do with it. And a cause like CSPOA needs to be flooded with immense amounts of money. If you're sitting on a lot of it, you need to do that. They need billions of dollars, I think. And this would change the world much faster if the resources go to good causes. So I'm just really encouraging that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we need to keep doing this if you're up to it, because I think there's always plenty to comment on and talk about, and it's an educational project, right?
There is, and this is another thing I do. I do probably 10 to 15 interviews every week, and they range anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I've told them that on the longer ones, we need to keep them down to about 50 minutes. But if it goes longer, I keep going, and this is what I do. And I hope it has some impact on what's going on in our country, and that we can take our freedoms back.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to just listen to this once. We have this thing called archives and recordings, and you're allowed to listen to it again, because Sheriff Mack has brought up so many critical things that they need to sink in, and it takes repetition because we've been programmed for the opposite, to be divided and hate each other and criticize some group or religion or race or something. Just that plays right into the hands of the people who are not going to be very nice. So
that American liberty will not itself become yet another casualty of COVID-19.
It's right on the edge of that right now, and it's up to the listeners to decide which way it'll go.
Amen.
So thank you, Sheriff Mack. That was great. And we'll be back in touch right soon, hopefully.
See you soon.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Doug. You too.
Okay, you guys, so we've got just minutes here before the end of the show. It went really fast for me. I hope you enjoyed and really listened to everything that Sheriff Mack was saying. It's critical. It's not an over characterization of the situation to say that we're on the edge of keeping or losing the country. And it's been, to a large degree, lost already, in the sense that it's not free. It's not even close to free. Freedom doesn't mean anarchy. Freedom means that the government is there, as the founders intended, to protect individual freedom from private gangs, from crazy elements of government that want to take over, from international organizations like UN, WTO, WHO, and all these ones that want to supersede your own freedoms and constitution. The government's there to protect you from those things. And Sheriff Mack was explaining that the local government of which the sheriff is the top executive, is there to protect you from even government institutions that are unconstitutional or private attackers, home invaders, anything like that. That's the reason that government is, in theory, something that can be very useful. And America is supposed to be the one to demonstrate that for the rest of the world, so that every country can realize everybody's got the same rights. It doesn't matter whether they're written down or not. That's what the Declaration of Independence in America said, and that was something great that needs to be recognized. Whether people lived up to it or not, so far, doesn't take away from its value, and it could still be lived up to now. And in fact, that's the job that we've got, being born in this particular time. So you have massive power, and one of the things, many things that we've been programmed to think is that we're helpless and not too smart, and there's nothing we can do, and we need teams of experts and technocrats, as Patrick Wood and others say, to make all of our decisions for us, and that's really not the case. We have massive power, and all the things that are being hidden from us, including real health information, real energy information, real technology, how telecommunications could be done safely without weaponized frequencies, all these things, the geoengineering, all this stuff you're not supposed to know about, is at a lower level than the main secret, which is that you have vast power and potential. And a human being is not something ordinary. So we need to wake that back up, and waking up in the big sense is not just being able to list all the bad things that are happening. It's becoming self-aware. So that's why we started Planetary Healing Club. People that want to follow that more specifically for their personal life, and they're affecting their relationships and their work and everything that they do. And of course, getting back your health by taking care of it personally. If you're interested in that, and we meet live in person every week about a half hour after this show ends, and the page that has access to that is planetaryhealingclub.com. All the member dues that are very small, but they do get collected from those people, go to the nonprofit that supports all that we do. And if you want to be there, you're welcome, and you're invited personally. Otherwise, look at our free shows, which will say everything we can that we can possibly not have censored. That's on lostartsradio.com, that you can see all the platforms that our shows are on. And stay in touch that way too, that you can always email us. There are contact forms on the site. If you've got money to try to support what we do, that would be really appreciated. You can count the number of commercials that we do during these shows on no hands, because I don't want to be interrupted by that. And if you think what we're doing is useful, you can contribute to our cause at lostartsradio.com, the donate button, or lostartsresearchinstitute.org donate button there. There's also an address if you'd rather send money directly, so none of it goes to the intermediaries like PayPal and people like that. Either way is great. Or Subscribestar, which is subscribestar.com/lostartsradio. And make sure you subscribe to us, speaking of subscribing, at brighteon.com, brighteon.com. That's a non-censoring video platform. And what else? We watch for our Sunday shows of inspiring guests. Tomorrow night is no exception, and that's at 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern. You're invited to that. That's also on multiple platforms for the moment. Some of them are audio that you can listen to on a smartphone driving home or something like that, or many of them are on video. And we want to stay in touch with you if you've got guests to suggest, or comments or questions or anything like that, or you want to ask about Planetary Healing Club or about the school that we want to build. If we, as soon as we get the money in to do that, we don't have it obviously yet, but that's talked about on lostartsresearchinstitute.org, and you can comment, and love to hear what you think about any of this stuff. So take care of yourself. That's the main thing to make you able to do more good in the world. Get your health back, learn the natural ways to do that, to reclaim and maintain it. Stay away from things that are really bad for you. And I think you have an idea of what I'm talking about, that the powers that be want to do to you without your consent, which is illegal. learn everything relevant that you possibly can. And rather than trying to go out and convince everybody, just be an example, even if you don't say anything. It's very powerful. So thanks for joining the show with Sheriff Mack. I really appreciate it. For those of you who are interested, Planetary Healing Club meeting in 30 minutes or less. Actually, we're 1 minute over, 29 minutes. PlanetaryHealingClub.com is the access, and I'll meet you there live in person in less than half an hour. Otherwise, have a great rest of the weekend, or whatever day it may be when you're watching this, or any part of the world. And my deep appreciation for your keeping us on the air. I think we got some important work to do right now. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.